like your vibe, Ed. Live from
Yes, we are
Investacard.
live. Yes,
You tried. Now, Andrew, your turn.
from Investacard here, live from Fort Lauderdale.
It's
What's going on, guys?
Everyone
up,
knows
Eddie?
it's a knockoff when I do it. Eddie's the OG. When Eddie does something, people usually or businesses do it a year down the road, right? He's an early adopter. So, I've seen you all over the internet. I've seen you all over social media. I'm really excited to kind of get to know you. Our show, what it's become is, you hear all these things second, third, fourth hand from people. But we do a show every single day. We do an episode every day, 655 episodes of our show. And really, we want to have conversations. We want to have dialogue. We want to understand the person and the ideas behind the business. So I know there's thousands of listeners who know of you, but there's some listeners who want to get the full story, who want to learn more about CardFi with Investacard. And I hope in the next 30, 45, 60 minutes, they get their answer. So episode 650 of Luka's Tigers and Bronzo Mai. I want to welcome Edward from Investacard. Welcome, Eddie.
Appreciate it. I was excited to come on here. I know I've watched a bunch of your shows and stuff, and I've gotten hooked on it, and very entertaining and educational. So it's been good stuff.
Dumb and Dumber. Just
Dumb and Dumber. Well, what does that make Eddie? I mean, the sequel, they got even dumber, so that's no good. Eddie, listen, I got to tell you right off the bat, it's fun. We've talked about the Mint Collective a couple times here. We're a few weeks away. We had our 10 for 10 women's series that came out of that. We had a whole bunch of stuff that came out of it. And your appearance here, I got to chat with you for a little while down at Mint Collective. One of the funny things that was, I don't want to say missing from Mint Collective, because the show itself was great, was we were walking around Friday. I had just given a little presentation on stage. I'm walking around saying, is anybody doing anything after? I mean, it's Vegas. Like, what's going on here? What's the deal? And every single person said the same thing. Well, we got to go hang out with Eddie. I mean, Eddie's throwing a thing. He's got the suite from the real world Vegas, and if it's Eddie's doing it, it's going to be a good time. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go ask Eddie if I can come. And he's like, of course. Here's the thing. He'd put it on the phone. Very, very gracious. Not like, who the hell are you? It was like, yeah, everybody's welcome. We're having a party, which is great. And I wanted to thank you for that. And, we're thankful that you can come on. And while we were there, you had a booth set up, which was basically this CardFi, right? You had this, this is a new business venture for you. So, Andrew and I could try to, say what it is, but probably better coming straight from you. Give the 30-second, 60-second Reader's Digest version. What is CardFi? What's it all about? And why do you think it's something that the hobby needs?
Yeah, so, we've been funding for like the last 8 months. So what we did with CardFi is just sort of we rebranded our sort of finance side of our business and as a standalone. And I came up with this, this name, this brand, CardFi, because I felt that it needed to be a standalone. CardFi is the new alternative to liquidity within the hobby. So instead of selling or being forced to sell or trading your card, a lot of guys want to keep their cards. And I felt that there wasn't too many options out there for this type of liquidity. Whether it's a Mickey Mantle, whether it is a Luka Doncic cracked ice, or whether it's a Patrick Mahomes high-end card, some guys do want to keep their cards. For whether it's a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Maybe it's not the right time to sell in regards to the market. Maybe it's something they want to just keep long-term. And we felt that providing this liquidity to where somebody could take an advance on the future sale of that card is essentially what we do. It's not a loan; it's an advance on the future sale of that card, but still own that card 100%, right? And at any time during the advance, they still have the opportunity to sell that card, or they could just pay off the advance and get that card back. But that gives them the opportunity to keep it, take the equity out of that card, and use it for other opportunities that they might have. And of course, in the hobby, there are a lot of opportunities right now, whether you're on the retail side, whether you're a flipper, an investor, or other opportunities outside of, right? It could be a real estate opportunity or to create another business. So that's what we've done with CardFi.
I want to go technical, if that's okay today, Cage. We could go high level.
Sure.
Real quick. You were just in New York. You had a good time. Bleecker event. Everything was great.
Yep.
Good vibes all around. Zablo showed you a good time. People showed out. Any highlights from the event you want to mention before we get super technical? Because I do have a ton of questions. I really do.
Sure. I mean, New York, I always loved going to New York. I'm originally from New York. I was,
You
born
don't
in
say.
Long Island.
There you go.
And
You
I
market
moved
and
to,
sell like a New Yorker.
yes, yeah, true 100% New York Jets fan and
Sorry.
Yankees fan. So
Sorry again.
I always get hate on that being a Jets fan, but I think we're gonna have a good year this year. So, but we say that every year. But New York was great. Bleecker trading, that was great. It was great to go down there and actually see the store for the first time, meet some great people down there. It was a good event. We picked up a few really good leads from there. And then, of course, I was also in New York City for, some regular business as well, some investment meetings. Of course, it's the Mecca, right? New York, the Mecca of finance. We're in the finance space, so we're in the middle of raising a bunch of capital. So I would say New York was a pretty good trip.
I guess before I get into the weeds, because I mean, it's interesting. There really isn't a product like this. The closest thing I could think of is if you have your cards in the vault at PWCC, they give you cash advance. But maybe we could start bigger. Like, why? Why this idea? How does this help the hobby as a whole? How does this help the industry? I think I have some ideas of how liquidity helps the industry, but I think you would know much better.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been going to the shows for quite some time now, and you see me at all the shows out there promoting. So I see things, that from afar. And over the last, year or so, I've been seeing like not a lot of liquidity within the marketplace. A lot of people are card rich, and they're walking around with these cases of high-end cards, and it may not be the right time to sell, or they're looking to maybe flip up to something else, and they need to trade. And what I've been seeing is a lot of trades going on and not a lot of cash moving because people just either don't want to sell their card, they hold on to it, or maybe they're moving that card on on one of these auction platforms. When I came into the space in late 2018, my main goal for Investacard was to create this finance product, right? Because I came from the finance space. I've been in that since 2009. I had a company that I started from the ground up where we helped small businesses with capital, very small businesses with capital, businesses that couldn't go to a bank and get funded, whether it was a pizza shop, a beauty salon, a landscaper, a trucker. I did that until 2019, and I exited that company and sold it to start Investacard 100%. In the beginning, my main goal was to create this finance. We got into buying and selling. And then, just over about a year or so ago, I knew that we needed to just focus in on the finance, and I pulled the plug on just buying and selling, right? Just like everyone else is doing. I wanted to create this liquidity service. How I think it helps out the hobby is, listen, liquidity is important, right? In any industry, right? And the more liquidity options that you can add, the faster the growth is, right? And if you've got investors and collectors that are holding cards that are in the 5 figures, 6 figures, and it sits in a vault for whether it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, it's almost like having like apartment buildings that you own but nobody's paying any rent, right? And this is what I'm seeing with these guys with these cases. They're walking around with these cases and $10,000 card, $20,000, $30,000. No, I don't want to sell it. I want to hold on to it. Well, use the equity in it and put it back into the hobby, put it back into growing your business. Whether it's a card store that needs wax or needs marketing and they have a PC, they can pull money out and put that money back into the business. And if it's somebody that is just going around and flipping, then they could utilize it as well, whether it's with other collections that they're looking to buy. If you're at a show and you've got a $30,000 card that you don't really want to sell, but a guy across the show, across the marketplace floor has a deal that that you can make 20 or 25% on, but you don't have the cash, or you could walk over to CardFi, their booth, get instantly approved, right, on that $30,000 card. We advance up to 70% of the market value. You can get funded there instantly, take the capital, go purchase that, and make a return on that side. So there's many ways I think this helps out the hobby. So
I like it, Andrew. Your question, because we're going to get into the how, right? We want to wait to get into the specifics because the specifics are going to matter. The first question is now the why, right? It's why is this something that the hobby needs? Why do this? The vault has something. You've obviously explained how it's very different than that. My take on it, if it's done right, if it's done with credibility, if it's done legally, if it's done in a way where people are protected and we're looking out for both you as a business but also the card owners. We'll get to all that in a second. The why is easy. I forget who it was that we had on. I don't know if it was She Collects or I don't somebody we had on, Andrew, where we talked about one of the things that I said was that to bring this forward, whether you agree with, Chris Hodge, Card Ladder, those guys or not, about how you need to have more Michael Saylors in here. You need to start treating this like it's a real asset. This is part of it if done the right way. Remember, I made the comparison that, people are walking around with these cards, but you have a house, you can take a mortgage on your house. You can take a home equity line of credit on your house and use that to do your kitchen, do your basement, do improvements on your house. That money is yours. It's something you have equity in. If cards are going to be viewed as a legitimate asset class, then I think, and Eddie, please, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think what Eddie's doing here is he's trying to treat cards the same way that other asset classes treat their assets, right? That you can take a mortgage, you can take a loan against it. If you own an apartment building, you own, a residential home, a bank can come in and do it. But Eddie, here's where it gets fun. In each of those processes, there's usually an appraisal done. There's usually, maybe an independent appraiser. I know that's slow and it's clunky. I know somebody now who just put an offer in that was accepted on a house, and they're trying to get a mortgage, and they're hoping that the house appraises for a certain amount. This way they can put 20% down, but if the appraisal comes in at a different level, it's going to impact how much money they have to put down, and that's a third party. So I'm leaking into the how, right, with my why. But Andrew, I think that's why something like this makes sense. Another comparison I have is only for high-end stuff. And Eddie, we could talk about whether there's a limit, what the numbers are for the cards, what value you do it at. But Andrew, it's sort of like when we do collectible, we do our weekly show, retained equity in the card. It allows somebody to retain a piece of the card, but still have a liquidity event. I think what Eddie does that's different is you can still own 100% of your card. Like, I think the people can pay you back. They can have an exit. So we'll get into all the how and the nitty gritty of it, but I get it. It's just, I hope it's being done, a way that's kind of credible and fair for everybody.
It is a real asset, and you see a lot of, private money coming in, a lot of funds that are started. You see a lot of, look what's going on with the major companies that are coming in. It is a real asset. Look what the cards are selling for, whether it's 100,000, 500,000, 300,000, $1 million. I mean, same prices right up there with like a home, right? A $500,000 card or $1 million card, and the card is obviously a lot easier to service than that home, right? I mean, you could walk around with that card. You can't walk around with that $1 million house or that $300,000 house, and it's an asset, and it's being looked at the same way art is being looked at, or precious metals, or crypto, and there's really, outside of PWCC, which has been loaning against cards for quite some time now, I guess probably around like 7 or 8 years at least, very privately to their customers. And they have a lot of, they've got quite a bit of funds out there. And but I think our product or service is a little bit different than theirs. We're willing to go up to 70% of the market value. Our process is a little bit different, much faster. I think you can, speak to us today, get approved within minutes, and get funded, the same day that we receive the cards with the technology that we built. And we can get into the whole how we price out a card and how we underwrite a card, because that's really the secret sauce to our and the magic.
Well, I don't want any secret sauce. I still don't know what the 13 secret spices, herbs and spices of KFC. I don't know the Coca-Cola formula. Andrew told me there was something in it that is why I keep going back to it, but I don't know if it's true.
Sure.
I like soda. But we don't need to know the secrets. It's just that there is a method to it, and just the parameters. That way, if there's people listening and they say, "Hey, you know what? I'd like to do this, but I wonder if my card is valuable enough." And I guess the first question, though, Eddie, is this: if we're going to make the PwC comparison, PwC doing their lending, they maintain custodian. They're the custodian of the card, right? They have custody of the card. So when you do this deal and someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, I have this $500,000 Mahomes, I need $100,000 off you," and you're like, "I'm willing to give you $350,000." Like $100,000's easy, no problem. They walk away with the card?
No.
Okay.
So we're the custodian as well. So we have a vault right here. I'm standing right here in my office here in Fort Lauderdale, a real bank vault, fully insured, 24-hour security on it, and we take possession of the card. They are pledging that card obviously as collateral, and that card stays in our vault, and it goes onto our internal marketplace. So, this, I think, it'd be pretty tough to advance someone 100,000 and let them walk away with the card.
Yeah, I guess I was curious about if there was like a sliding scale, like if you own more than 50% of the card or you lend more than 50% of the card, obviously you could take it. If there was some, we're only lending 20% or some denominal number, the person still maintains 80%. But I guess you have to protect the card. I mean, what's stopping you from giving somebody $100,000? They walk out and sell the card. Then you got to go and litigate, and it becomes a real problem.
So we take possession of the card. And you still own 100% equity in that card. We're just holding the card, just as if it was staying in your vault. Instead of staying in your vault, it sits in our vault, and you can use the equity out of it. It's it's that simple.
I mean, it's interesting. Let me ask, just because now I'm thinking about the benefits of it. You have insurance on it in your vault. It is climate controlled, all that stuff. So what's funny is, for that lending, you also get probably the card being kept better than 99% of people have their cards in their basement. Your vault is probably a better place for it. You get value for the money on it as well.
Eddie, the hobby is pretty opinionated. Have you had naysayers on this? Have you had people come out and are like, "What the F are you doing?"
Sure. Yeah. Anytime you introduce something new to an industry, I think there's always naysayers, right? And until they understand it and see it, laid on the table, explained, then maybe they can understand it a little bit better. But yeah, of course,
what do they say? What are their common objections? The interest rate's too high.
The first one I heard, that guy's just doing payday loans.
Sure,
that was the first thing I heard at Mint Collective. Which is
so you're going to have a lot of
predatory loans.
You've got whether it's the pawn shop type payday loans, the interest, of course, it's not interest. We don't charge interest. We charge a factor rate, one flat fee to utilize the capital. So it's a lot different than a traditional loan, right? Because a traditional loan, you're paying interest, and this here you just pay one flat fee, and there's no additional cost whatsoever. And of course, there's no personal guarantee whatsoever on it, right? You're pledging your cards as collateral, and but I've heard a lot of stuff, but I stay focused. I don't I've been through this before in other industries. Of course, back in 2009, when small businesses couldn't get funds from banks and they couldn't survive, and we created this program to help small businesses out. We got a lot of hate back then, not only myself but a lot of other companies, and now it's okay. Now it's mainstream, right? You can go online and within a couple of minutes get a loan for your business, right? From 300 different companies. So it takes a little time to people to adapt to it, and maybe some of the marketing words that we use, they get scared by it or so on and so forth. But those people have to hear the real stories, right? The good stories of how this helps out a lot of businesses, especially card shop owners that we funded, and they're able to increase their inventory, increase their marketing. Maybe they don't have the access to capital, or maybe they don't want to take money from their house. Maybe they don't want to sit with their wife and have to tell them that they need money and we need to take a loan from our house or something like that. They could use the equity that they have in their cards that they've been collecting for quite some time. So whether it's a hobby store, whether it's a guy that's just investing in sports cards on a regular basis, whether it's someone that just took out $80,000 to put towards a real estate investment that he's going to make back in 4 months, whether it's someone that just bought a food truck that wanted to invest in another business and invested in in a food truck right across the street from a college that's going to now create an extra revenue
These are
stream
pretty
for him.
specific, Eddie. Do you have specific? Are these actual examples
Sure,
of people?
absolutely. These are all stories. And you know what? Not everybody wants to be on video. Not everybody wants to show their cards, right? But these are all stories, right, that nobody sees. And this is how we're fueling the not only the hobby, but small businesses in general, guys that want to be entrepreneurs. And yes, they've got that Hank Aaron rookie card. Yes, they've got that Michael Jordan PSA 9. They got that Kobe Bryant Topps Chrome refractor that they don't want to sell. They don't want to sell it. They want to, but they can utilize the money from it. That's why it makes sense. So, but
it's interesting, man. Like, my wheels are turning because we've done a lot of episodes. They're never really this is finance. Like, this is finance. This is, as much as this now applies to the hobby, which is now, I think a lot of what you're doing here rests upon the foundation that this is now an industry, not a hobby. That there is some volatility, but these card prices aren't, especially in the high-end cards, aren't going to go up and down like crazy. But leverage is a really interesting game because it cuts both ways, right? 2005, 2006, when homes prices were going up, I mean, home builders had jobs, right? You had a whole industry of people who had jobs, people who could, get mortgages and buy a beautiful vacation home. So it had its good side, but then people become over leveraged, and it's this really interesting balance. I'm sure you've seen it. I don't need to tell you, but like, leverage is a really interesting game that we've built a little bit of a fire in the hobby, and leverage is maybe lighter fluid, gasoline. Is that fair? And not that it blows up, it helps the hobby expand and grow.
Sure. And I think you're seeing it with other companies right now. And like I said earlier, you'll probably see a few more companies come into the space and offer this type of, service. Hopefully we're ahead of the game here. We've been funding now for the last 8 months, and we've got I think it's one thing to come out with a service and be able to give somebody funds, right? It's another thing to service it and collect on it properly with proper reporting and everything. And I think that's what we have here. And we advance, the cards need to be at least $1,000 or more. The minimum advance amount right now is $5,000, and we've just gone up to $200,000 for an advance. The goal is to get that up to $500,000 because we have the appetite. There's an appetite for that. So for some, high-end collectors, 100,000 or 200,000 may not move the needle for them with opportunities that they may have. So right now we're funding up to 200,000, and the whole process is super simple. We've built a whole underwriting model for this with some of the technology that we have. We've integrated with several different companies to be able to pull proper data down so we can underwrite cards, really fast, and have. We invested in a company called Cardbase for the sole reason to utilize it for our underwriting model. Cardbase is a company out of Germany, similar to like some of the other companies that are out there right now that are collecting data and analyticals and stuff. So
you're lending on wax yet, Eddie?
Say it again.
Are you lending on sealed wax yet?
It's funny. We've been talking about that, and I've got one deal that we're closing. It should be closed by tomorrow, where the guy has a 1972 Topps basketball wax box with the Dr. J.
Yeah, Joey's
authenticated, BBC authenticated, right? And he wants to use it in the deal because he's had it. He doesn't want to sell it, and so that's so. And
Eddie, like you, I'm not known for my brevity. So I'm gonna do my best, Thornton Mellon, Dr. Barbet question here from back to school, right? I've only got one question for you, but it's in 27 parts.
And I'm probably gonna answer it myself.
I'll probably answer it myself also. That's what makes this show great, So I ask long questions, and then I answer them. But I don't have the answer for this. All right? Okay. I don't have the answer. I'm hoping you do, and it's because it's a tangled question. It involves you protecting yourself from being over leveraged. It involves you protecting the hobby. And here goes. I hear you talking about what your platform is and what your business is, and you're going to sit down at a show and you're going to provide instant liquidity at that show, cash on hand at the table for somebody to come in, give you a card, you underwrite a deal, they can walk across the table, give that cash to somebody else. Okay, that's fact number one.
Now they have two cards, just for people, right? They have the card that they owned, and now they bought a new card with.
But Eddie takes custody of the card they own, and this is where it gets into the fun.
Sure.
All right. Second part. Limiting how many you'll take in from one person. I know you have an appetite to take up to 200,000, 500,000, and I'll get to that part B of the question in a second. Part A, we're seeing, and I asked the wax on purpose, we're seeing a proliferation of robberies in hobby stores. We're seeing people come to shows and steal cards. We're seeing issues with who actually owns a card. And this is because we have this, very easy comparison to a pawn shop with what you're doing. I know you probably don't like the comparison, but what kind of fail-safes will you institute if somebody walks up to you at a show to know that that's a card that they actually own? And I say this from protecting your own business because, there are people who walk into a show, they hit the first table, they knock into it, grab a $2,000, $10,000 stack of cards, 2 cards, grab a Tatis, whatever it is. Some people don't realize what's going on. That person then now, I don't want to say they have more incentive to sell because there's Investacard, CardFi sitting 12 feet away with a stack of cash on the table. They walk over to you, sell you the card. You take custody of the card. You give him the cash. He goes across the room, uses the cash, and leaves with a card that he now owns because he paid cash for. A couple hours later, a la the Dallas show, who knows what happened there. I'm just giving you a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Somebody comes over to you and says, that card you got from that person, he stole from me. We got the camera footage, you name it. What happens?
Yeah, so, that's pretty hypothetical right there.
Yeah,
and
but you can see it happening.
Sure. So, first off, if someone brings us a card, we're gonna do an underwriting on the card, right? And not only in terms from the performance and the data and how much it's sold for, or what the market price is, but maybe the where the card came from. We do part of our underwriting procedure is the person that even though we don't do a credit check, we might do a social media check, right? Do they have social media presence, right? Instagram, Twitter, something.
Okay. All right.
Are they showing a lot of cards somewhere, or they have if they don't have any social media presence whatsoever? Because we ask one of the key questions that we ask is their Instagram handle, their Twitter handle. We put that in our system, and it runs a search for it, right?
And so chances are that card will be in something they posted last week,
correct,
or hey,
exactly.
I'm bringing this card to the show, or
that's one way that we defer. That raises a red flag if no one has any social media presence, and they just walked up to our table with a card that's worth $16,000, and they're looking to do an advance on it. I mean, this is just my opinion, but someone who's just stole the card's probably not looking to do an advance. They're probably just looking to sell that card, right, to someone else at the show. They're not looking to create a payment for that card. And the other thing, even though we don't do a credit check, we do a bank verification check. We're integrated with a company called Plaid. So within 2 minutes, we link up to their bank for 2 reasons. Number one, to prove that they are who they say that they are, and number 2, obviously, to link up their bank so we can collect, the payments, right?
Yep.
And to fund their account. So there are some steps that we go through. We don't just,
All right. So you have the person, you have the identity of all that stuff. Yeah.
It's a great question because, I mean, Ed, if it wasn't for this show,
wait for part 2.
Cage and I would be fraudsters. So we try to think like that.
Sure.
Cage, if that happens, now Eddie
has the info, and the police
has the info
100%.
and the bank account, and there's no way to now that's a whole.
So the flip side to it, right, on the limitation, because the hobby is not just filled with scammers on the low end trying to take advantage of legitimate businesses. Sometimes the legitimate businesses might be the problem. What happens if hypothetically a group subber gets into a little bit of problems, and their way of getting out is to try to get a liquidity event, and they come to you with a whole bunch of cards that may not actually be theirs. But it's a legal question as to whether or not they're theirs. The courts can't seem to figure out whether they are or they aren't.
Yeah. So,
how do you verify that? I mean,
there is no way to verify it, right? I mean, let's be honest. So part of our agreement that they sign, one of the stipulations is that they own 100% of the card, right?
Good.
They own it. They sign off on that. It's part of one of the terms in our agreement, in our sports card advance agreement, right? However, and I say this, and I've been saying this for the last probably 15 years in life, which is you can never predict random human behavior.
That's right.
And that's it, right? So there's no way of knowing if the card was stolen or not. All you can do is some due diligence on it, right? And I feel what we do on our side, on our back end, by looking up who is the person that we're dealing with, so on and so forth. Obviously, if it's a group submitter and they're coming with 1, 2, or 3 big cards, if they're a group submitter, then that's part of, right? We know who they are, right?
Correct.
Are these cards yours 100%? We don't approve every deal that comes to us, right? We don't have a 100% approval rate, right? We could pass on a deal if we feel that it's not right or there's some red flags there. We would just walk away from it. So, but there is no way, and maybe that's one thing to look at, because I was speaking to a couple of store owners about a month ago about this, and there should be some type of in our other industries they have blacklisted, right? Where there's a website where you can go to log in, and if a card is stolen, you could put that card onto this website. And I probably just gave somebody an idea out there, but that's
we have no central governing body.
So there's no, and that's what really needs to be done. So if somebody that want to provide this blacklisted site where cards are stolen, immediately go up on this. So a company like me or a store owner could go to and look this up. I'm down for that. So if anyone wants to put that together,
it's a Facebook group run by scammers, though.
So it's Facebook is Web 2, Web 3, Eddie, and there's the people out there who don't like the metaverse. Yeah. Wait for the blockchain to fix this for you, because very soon ownership of a card with a QR code, you name it on it, you can verify whether the person owns it by blockchain. It'll happen, right, Andrew? Come on. Do you feel like a proud papa?
The student becomes the teacher.
But it will happen. It will happen. That's going to happen.
A year ago, couldn't spell Bitcoin. Now he's talking Web3 and blockchain. Eddie, I'm curious. Why not run a credit check? Just curious.
Yeah, because it's not a loan. It's not a loan product. There's no recourse on it whatsoever. So you're pledging your card. There's enough value in the card that we don't need to have someone personally guarantee it based on their credit. Just because they own that 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle, and it's worth $135,000, just because their credit is 540, shouldn't be a reason why they can't get capital out of that card.
I'll tell you, man, I am a staunch supporter of capitalism, like staunch through and through. Maybe like my life goal would be to kind of coin the term social capitalism, where I believe everyone has the right to make money, to create a business, to create a product or a service that profits them. I also urge them to remember that you're not the only one type of thing, right? And that's the social entrepreneurship or social capitalism, where make money but also do good. And I do believe liquidity, if done responsibly, actually does a lot of good for the hobby. I think it's when it shifts to that greed side is where it gets a little bit, and people, we could talk forever about human psychology and greed.
Well,
so
listen, we'll have Eddie back in a year. I'm sure somebody's going to swoop in and steal this company from him. Someone's going to make him an offer he can't refuse because he's the first one doing it. And it does sound like a good idea. So I'm sure, if you're still doing it in a year, which I'd be surprised, Eddie, because I think some big guy is going to come in and buy it from you. If you are, we can come in and talk about the default rate. And I'm sure it's going to be lower than most people think. I'm sure, and that'll be a good indicator of whether or not it's being done the right way. And by the way, thanks for answering my hypotheticals, because what I take out of that is if a card gets stolen at a show, people have a better chance of getting it back, getting the money back, getting paid if that thief comes to you than if they just go to a random person and sell it for cash. There's no record, there's no plaid, there's no background check, there's no nothing. So, I appreciate the response. It's actually, it went in a different direction than I expected it to. But yeah, I mean, Andrew, you're 100% right. I mean, liquidity is a good thing if it's done the right way,
It's becoming an industry. I don't know if you guys have been seeing these commercials. It's actually a Caesars commercial where Spike Lee is sitting with, you guys know this actor, but I don't know his name. And he's he's like, hey, you guys hear about these cars? It's like a Gem Mint 10 and they're exploding.
That was Muggsy Bogues, and I posted that in my story on Saturday over the weekend.
It really the industry, despite what we think about the card prices, the popularity of this space is growing immensely. It really is. Like you see it now kind of permeating through mainstream. I mean, I've had a few conversations. I opened a PO box today, Cage. The lady who runs the PO box, there's another breaker that uses her. So I mean, it's crazy. I think we're not in the first inning of card prices, but in the first inning of this actually maturing from a hobby to an industry where there are financial products, where there is vaulting, where there are all these ancillary services that benefit customers if they want to use them.
Listen, again, I go back to, the value of these cards, whether it's 50,000, 25, 100,000, 200, 300. We see cards breaking records, every weekend on some of these auctions. Cards, just come to mind. Just Joe Montana 81 Topps rookie card just broke another record, at 100 and whatever 114,000. We just advanced off of one of those just a couple of weeks ago. So that guy doesn't want to sell that card, right?
There's only 100 and something of them. I wouldn't want to sell mine either.
There's only 110 of them or something like that. But we feel that card might, look like 250,000 over the next 36 months. So why sell it? But take the capital out and use it. I think the key to this, though, is, being able to use the money properly. And if you can afford to pay it back, if you have a plan. And I always say, someone asked me, what's a good lead for you guys? A good lead for us, putting the card aside, is the need for the capital and the opportunity to utilize it to be able to pay it back and still earn, right? I
love it, Eddie. I got you.
I wanted to touch on like the cost, so we can be.
Please, that's what we were going to go to, and where people could find you and that kind of stuff. We definitely.
I would say the best way, we use a factor rate, right? And on average, the factor rate is somewhere around that 1.15 to 1.17. So for round numbers, if we did a $10,000 advance, right, the payback on that would be around 11,500 to 11,700, right? So it's going to cost them somewhere between 1,500 and 1,700 to utilize our capital and to still own their card 100%. And so if they advance 10,000, they pay back 11.5, no more, no less, right? And
how long do they have to pay it back?
The max term that we're doing right now is 26 weeks, so it's 6 months. So depending on the risk factors of the card, our average term is probably somewhere around 20 weeks right now. So based on the risk factors of the card, it's going to, they'll have 20 weekly payments to pay it back, and they can do that weekly. It's fully automated. It comes directly out of their account.
The loan payment or the principal and the interest?
So we actually have two options. They could have option A, which is paying back the factor rate and principal together, where every payment goes towards the balance 100%. So if it's a 20-week term, at the end of 20 weeks, they're all paid up. Or they have option B, where they can just pay the factor rate payment if they want much lower weekly payments and they want to stretch that capital out. Then we just collect the factor rate payments, and then there's a balloon balance at the end. On both scenarios, they still have the option to pay that advance off early. If they pay it off early, we give them a discount, and the added value is that they get to still have the opportunity to sell their card. So even though they have an advance out on that card, they could still have it listed on eBay or MySlabs or another platform. If they sell that card for one reason or another, then they would just pay off the balance, and we can actually drop ship it for them to that customer. So for the person that may want to use the capital but may still be considering selling that card in 2 months or 3 months, or maybe a better market time to sell that card, has that added value. So
I fully believe that we have the best listening audience in the world. So what I'm curious from you guys is, let us know in the comments, are we covering all the objections, right? Because this is interesting. This is not like an episode we've ever done. I'm sure we have financiers out there. We have, academics. Let us know in the comments of this YouTube video what you guys think of this product, for it, against it, and poke some holes. But also, if Eddie's done a good job explaining, also give him a thumbs up, give him kudos, because this is a really fascinating conversation for me. I also came from the finance world. I was actually at Morgan Stanley when Facebook IPO'd, right? I just bought a car. So it's not so different than a lot of the other different asset classes that we talk about.
So
go ahead.
I wanted to say, we did an example on, $10,000. If we do the same example, let's say on $100,000, which is a nice size deal, right? It's not every day that you could, have an option to pull out $100,000, super fast, right? If you want to pull $100,000 out of your home or somewhere else, there's a process. It takes time, right? With our platform, speed is the key for us, right? And if someone has an opportunity, they're able to get funded same day, right? I came from that, my previous company. We built the whole company based on the speed, and we use technology to get to the finish line faster than the next guy. So if somebody wanted to do 100,000 and the factor rate was 1.15, they're paying back 115,000. There's a deal I'm working on right now where the guy's taking 100,000, and he knows that within that 26 weeks, he could flip that at least 2 times or 2.5 times. So if it's costing him 15,000 to utilize our capital and to still own that card 100%, he knows that it makes sense for him. If he knows that he could make 30, 35, 40,000 with that over the next 6 months, then it makes sense, and he still gets to own 100% equity in his card.
So I got 2 things, Eddie. Number one, I'm glad you came on here today because, you are a character. And I know about characters in the hobby. There's a bunch of us. And I know the character that I am out there. People probably wouldn't want to lend me their cards or, borrow money from me. And, the snippets of content that are out there of you, some people might say used car salesman vibe, hey, we are live. I got a little Crazy Eddie comparison. Remember that guy, the little Crazy Eddie stuff over here? But these last 40 minutes, I implore anybody to listen. I mean, I'd borrow money from you. You know what I mean? This is it's a longer format, and you obviously know what you're doing. You obviously have thought this out. You're taking the steps that need to be taken to protect the people, protect the hobby, do it in a right way. I'm curious to see what our audience thinks of it. But, it's definitely, I'm glad you came on because, I'd have no hesitation using this myself after, sitting down, chatting with you. And, we often don't get the real people in that we are live 2 second, he's out there making a name for himself, got the microphone and all that fun stuff. This is Eddie. This is somebody I borrow from, right?
I'm learning too. Like frankly, I am learning.
But I got a second one for you, and it's this. And Eddie, you can do your thing. Ken Golden, if you're listening. Heritage Auction, if you're listening. So I don't come from finance, right? I come from the hobby, and I've been in this hobby for decades, and I've been buying from auction houses. I bought from auction houses that are no longer open. I bought from auction houses that you guys have never heard of. And you know what's funny? There is that moment at the end of the auction where you're like, I want to bid on this. I want to bid on this Willie Mays card. I want to bid on this, this mantle. I want to bid on this, but I have 10 days to pay. I have 2 weeks to pay. I have the assets to cover this. Like I can definitely, if Heritage wanted to trade me my Montana rookie for this, but I don't want to trade I want to keep my Montana rookie. And you know what? I could sell these cards, but am I going to get the liquidity I need in that 10-day period to bid on this card and be able to pay for it? This is an answer for that. It really is. It's an answer for you need that liquidity. You need it fast. You don't want to sell your cards. You don't want to trade your stuff. It's a way to know that, hey, if I place that extra $5,000 bid on it and I need to get 20 grand more or 10 grand more, I know I'll have it in that 10-day period where I have to pay these guys. So that's what I'm thinking. And there's no other platform out there. I would bolt this on. These big auction houses should probably be looking to you to help them get higher bids.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of opportunity to scale this and to partner up with auction houses. We're in talks, we're in meetings now, right? So to add this service to another platform, and they can use it as an added value. And we service it, we fund it, we do it all here. It's a soup to nuts turnkey opportunity for any auction house that wants a plug and play. So I think the goal for us is to find the right partner, right? The right strategic partner. I think it would be great to have someone within the hobby and the space that already has a major platform, that sees this as an added value, that understands sports cards, that understands the importance of liquidity, and will take advantage of it and want to come in here and help us scale. So I'm an entrepreneur, at firsthand, and I've built a lot of companies, and we're at a point right now where we're definitely seeing a lot of cards come in, and the opportunity to put funding out there. So because the more people see this, the more that they understand it, it makes sense to them. And I've funded some pretty popular retail stores, not to mention names, because with all due respect to them, I've funded some really good stores within the hobby that people would be very surprised on. So and those funds have gone to help grow them out. Whether they're adding wax, they're adding showcases, they're able to purchase cards that are coming into their stores, right? Because one of the key things to building the hobby and growing out these hobby stores and these card stores is give them the ability to purchase, right? Because if somebody can't walk into a store and sell their cards because the owner doesn't have capital or money, then what are we doing here, right? So we've helped out in those ways. And I think one of the main reasons why we wanted to create CardFi was the standalone company, away from, not fully away from Investacard, but a standalone company. And we're going to start marketing CardFi. And yes, you're not going to have the live from CardFi, the live from Investacard. We've gotten to this point right now where CardFi is going to be a standalone company, a standalone balance sheet, and so on and so forth. But Investacard is the marketing company, is the marketing arm, is the lead originator. We generate leads for CardFi. That's what the future of Investacard is, and who knows, Investacard is going to maybe get back into selling as well. But there's a lot of opportunity here, and I've been in meetings over the last 2-3 weeks, and I'm continuing to take on more meetings because there's some serious opportunity here to grow this out, and we're on pace right now. By within the next, projected over the next 9 or 10 months, we're on pace to have $25 million out there. So there's a lot of opportunity.
It's interesting. There's I imagine there's going to be more CardFis, right? Like I do think that there's going to be more lending. What I urge people to kind of think about is the stock market as we know it, right? We look at the stock market and we're like, this is such a mature, like look at how we use this as like the pinnacle of how we move money, invest. But the stock market's a relatively new thing. I mean, it's 60 years old, 70 years old?
100.
And they have these things called repo loans that when you were talking, it reminded me a lot of this, which are kind of like collateralized short-term loans, right? And we talked about, we're building the industry. Well, to grow anything, you need the plumbing. And the plumbing is money in, money out, right? And when you need it, right? Because money is in different forms. We have the dollar, which is a form of exchange. We have Bitcoin, which is a digital form of exchange. We have homes, we have boats, we have cars. But sometimes that stuff they're not always the most liquid, right? Cash is more liquid than a house. And so when the stock market and the bond market, and they introduced all of these short-term loans between banks, right? That allowed them to trade easily between each other. It allowed the whole system, yes, with its crashes and all, but if you kind of look at it, look at how America has prospered over the last 50, 60, 70 years since this. Houses everywhere, industrialization. So this kind of stuff is the plumbing that you can build upon if it's done the right way.
Sure. Yeah. Execution is key, and having the right people on your team is key to growing this out, and becoming a platform that could manage, a couple $100 million in assets or more, so there's a ton of growth, there. And I think, another thing is, we're seeing a lot of self-entrepreneurship, right? People want to be an entrepreneur. You see it, especially with social media nowadays, and you're able to,
we all think we're special, Ed.
Yeah.
We all think that we're diamonds.
But
Cage reminds me
more
every day
so
of
now,
honey.
I think, where somebody could, create a company, and with, if they're really good at social media and building their brand and stuff, we're seeing more and more of that. And I think that's one of the main reasons why, there's an employee shortage, right? People are, they can't find people to work. And I've got guys that I know are investors with us that own, chains of stores that they can't find people to work. And we see it everywhere, whether it's New York, Florida, Texas, hiring. Well, a lot of people want to be an entrepreneur. They can,
They just
get
wanna
on
buy
their phone and
NFTs. Come
create a
on.
product. When we talk about all the automation that's out there with Amazon and Shopify and everything, and that's what we're, that's where we're heading into right now. So, people can, drive for Uber or Lyft and be their own boss, right? So, and also have a side hustle and do cards or do whatever, or open up a car wash or open up a delivery service of their own. So, I think that's where, our added value is, especially for, card collectors or card investors, to be able to, take money out and start a new business, right? It's the American dream.
I have two more things, Cage. And do you have anything you else want to cover or anything like that?
No, you're in a fragile state. I had so many great jokes, and I haven't used any of them. The plumbing thing, there were just so much low-hanging fruit, but I didn't.
Plumbing?
About just you went into the plumbing.
About
I was going to ask a bunch of plumbing questions. It would have been bad, but no, go ahead. Dude, take you to
It's
and take us home.
crazy how basic terms give you these visuals. It's absurd.
Yeah. I was going to ask Eddie about his plumbing, but I didn't go there. It's good. We're almost an hour in.
You mentioned you report. Who? This is financial services, if I'm not mistaken. Who do you report to, if anybody?
In regards to what?
Like, if this is a financial product, you might have to report to the SEC. I'm naive. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so it's not a loan. Again, it's not a loan product. This is an advance on the future market sale of the card. So we're not charging interest rate. This is a loan. Again, so obviously it's we're in the whole hobby is an unregulated, right? So, but I think for what we charge is I think very fair compared to maybe some other services that are out there, right? Other finance products that are out there. I always say that I think if you walked into a bank to try, obviously you can't take a loan off your cards from a bank. At least not yet, right? You can't walk into Wells Fargo and throw slabs on the desk and say, "Well, I need $30,000," right?
I know Tim from Slab Strong watches our stuff. That should be his next infomercial.
So if you were to get if you're able to go to get a loan from a bank, maybe you're paying 8% a year, 9% a year. Ours is obviously is a little bit more, but if you pay an 8 or 9% a year and you sign up for 3 to 5 year loan, then our cost works out to the same. The only difference is it's accelerated, right? It's just accelerated, right? You're just paying. Actually ours is probably a lot cheaper than a 5-year traditional bank loan at 8% a year, right? So that's how I usually describe our service. It's an accelerated payment, and it's a fixed amount, and it works if you have the opportunity and the need to utilize the capital.
Eddie, you're being reasonable about it. You're not saying it's for everyone. You're not telling people, hey, you just want to borrow some money because you don't really have a need. Go ahead and use our service. It's for that person who has a deal in the hopper ready to go that they know they can make 20, 30, 40% on, but they don't have the liquidity right now. You can provide the liquidity for them right there, right? It's for somebody who wants to purchase something that they think is going to be, more valuable in the next 3-6 months, you name it. It's not traditional financing. You're doing it for a specific, segment with a specific need. That's all.
Yeah, I think part of our approval process is, the interview that we do with the customer, right? Because, every customer that we bring onto the platform is important to us, right? And we hope that, they have opportunities throughout the year to utilize our service, not just one time. We're seeing a retention rate right now of just about 84%, which means the guys that are using our service or the people that are using our service are paying it back and taking
Coming
out
back.
again, right?
Yeah.
And maybe the first time they took out 20, but now it worked for them. So maybe this what we're seeing is on the renewals, we're seeing a much higher advanced amount. So, part of also the interview, yes, we've been talking about the need for and the opportunity, right? What are they utilizing the funds for? Let's talk about it. Are you a hobby store? That's pretty easy, right? This is where the funds are going for. These are the ideas that they have. And I think from the experience that I have with dealing with a lot of small businesses, I can lend some of the experience that I have to them, and they can tell me what they're looking to do, and we can talk about it and do some consultation with them, and whether it's expanding, adding more showcases, adding more wax, or resources to buy wax, right? We also provide resources to buy wax for the stores, right? Or if it's that guy that has an opportunity and he's looking for 80,000, he's got a real estate opportunity. We're going to discuss this. So it's not just send me your card, we'll send you the money. We want to get to know our customers and the guys and the customers that we're bringing onto the platform, and hopefully be a provider of capital for them, not just this month, but maybe this year, next year, and for whenever they need.
Beautiful.
It's cool, man. I gotta be honest. I've really enjoyed this. I like when I'm pleasantly surprised, because Cage knows I came in here a skeptic. I really did, if I could be completely honest. And I love how we had this conversation. I love how open it was. I love how we went back and forth and shared ideas. So
I do want to say,
cool.
that even though we're running a finance business for sports cards and lending, I'm a true collector firsthand, and I've been collecting sports cards since the age of 10 years old, when I first got my first 1984 top set with the Don Mattingly rookie in it, and I've been hooked ever since. So I am even though I left the hobby just like a lot of people did in my 20s and in my 30s, there was always those times that I always would pick up a pack here or a pack there, or I was at a garage sale or an antique shop and I saw a card and I bought it. So I'm a true collector, and even though I don't show a lot of my own PC cards, I'm always buying cards for my PC, and it doesn't have to be super high end. It also could be low end. It could be a Curtis Martin rookie card. It could be a Frank Sinatra card. It could be a whatever.
Come on, 84 tops, Ken O'Brien.
Well, 84. Well, no, that would be 80.
Sounds like a news anchor.
83.
83.
Yeah,
That would be 83. Ken O'Brien with
Ken O'Brien
with the Marino and the Elway, right? And
84.
the Eric Dickerson rookie. That was a hell of a set. So we are true collectors over here, and not only just myself, but guys that I have on my team. We're all collectors. We have a strong passion for the hobby. It's not just creating a business just to to earn and to make money, right? I sold my other finance company to do this because I had such a strong passion for the hobby, for sports cards, right? And I love going to shows, and I love interacting, and the whole live from Investacard. I'm a really good marketing guy, and I've built the brand up. And yes, maybe my persona or my personality is not for everybody, but I always say that once you get to know me and you speak to me, you have a different perspective. So, and I hope that I've showed you that here on this, and whoever's watching. So,
excellent.
Luka Nation, a different episode. Let us know in the comments what you think. I'm really curious. You guys are as engaged a community as there is on the web. Let us know your thoughts. Good, bad, indifferent. Poke some holes. Give some compliments and praise where it's due as well. I think you did an amazing job.
Yeah.
I left this episode and I know more about this space now. So
if they're looking for more information on it, maybe they're curious, they want to get some numbers, maybe they have some big cards, they have opportunities, they could just reach out. They can call us on our 877 number. You'll find it on our Instagram page. You can go to Investacard.com and go to the Sports Card Advance tab. Click that, put in your information, and we could jump on the phone with you and take you through the whole entire process and just a couple.
So for you guys out there, 1-877-492 2737. 877-492-2737. I'm a guy, whenever I'm a phone guy. Like that's what I would do. So pick up the phone if you have any interest. Remember, you don't commit to anything. Pick up the phone, learn more, have a conversation. Luka Nation, we love you. Eddie.
Thanks,
I
Eddie.
hope I'm invited to your
We
penthouse
appreciate it, brothers. I appreciate it all.
party
Man.
at
As
National.
always, invest in the best with Investacard.
So thank you all for listening to another episode of Lucas, Tigers, and Bronzo My. I wanted to tell you about a new service that we have starting as of today, and I'm really, really excited to bring it to you guys. So as a part of our partnership with SGC, we got 50 free submissions every single month, and many of you have taken advantage of that. And it's amazing that we could have the opportunity to 650 episodes, 675 episodes in, to go ahead and give back to our community. As people were sending those cards in, they asked, can we send 5, 10, 20 more cards to you guys? We'll pay for it, but we wanted them graded with SGC. You guys know SGC is turning cards around in 13 to 14 business days, have incredible customer service, and their secondary market values are going up day after day after day. And that's exciting for the hobby and exciting for the grading landscape. So we didn't want to just rush into it. We wanted to do it right. And what we did was I relocated here to Boca Raton, Florida. I opened up a P.O. box maybe 5 minutes away from SGC, and I will be hand delivering and hand picking up the cards. So you don't have to worry about anyone else touching your cards. It will be me, and I will update you every step of the way. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to personally pick up the cards from a P.O. box, prep them, new card saver, new penny sleeve, and deliver them to SGC every single Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Well, it lets the stragglers over the weekend come back through on Monday and gives me a day to prep, and it basically gives SGC the entire week to work on grading those cards. Once your cards pop, only then at the end of the process will you be paying for the service. It's $25 per card, simple as that, and the turnaround times have never been faster. We're hearing right now 13, 14, less than 20 business days. So there it is. 9170 Glades Road, number 135 is the P.O. Box in Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. 9170 Glades Road, number 135, Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. Of course, you could shoot me an email or shoot me a text anytime, and I'm always available. Many of you already have my email. It's iamandrewgoldberg@gmail.com. or my cell phone number, 215-519-9154. Reach out with any questions. I could walk you through the process. I've hopped on the call with quite a few of you, and I'm happy to do that. Love you, Luka Nation.